Welcome, God's chosen ones. You are not here by coincidence. Your presence in this moment is deeply significant. Have you ever paused to wonder why your journey often feels so uniquely challenging, as if the battles you face are tailored just for you, designed to push you beyond the limits of what you think you can handle? Maybe you've felt the heavy weight of carrying burdens that others seem to avoid, or the deep loneliness of walking a path that few can understand. These feelings are not random. They are clues to something greater, something divine. Today, we're diving into a profound truth, the 7 toughest spiritual tests that only those chosen by God are called to face. These are not ordinary challenges. They are extraordinary trials that reveal your true strength and purpose in God's plan. But before we take this deep dive, let me take a moment to sincerely thank you. To all of you who continuously support this mission, your faithfulness and encouragement are a light that keeps this message shining brightly. A heartfelt thank you to those who have given through Super Thanks. Your generosity allows us to reach even more hearts with these life-changing truths. And if today's message speaks to you, I encourage you to share your presence by commenting 999. This simple act is more than a number. It's a declaration of your alignment with God's eternal grace and favor. Now, I invite you to take a moment of stillness. Ask yourself, why have I faced such intense trials? Could it be that these challenges are not meant to defeat me, but to prepare me for a higher calling? What if every hardship is shaping me for something extraordinary, a purpose so powerful that it could only be entrusted to someone chosen by God? In this journey, we will uncover these 7 spiritual tests, not as obstacles to fear, but as stepping stones to your destiny. Are you ready to see your struggles in a new light? Let's begin this powerful exploration together. God's chosen ones, these are 7 toughest spiritual tests only you face. We often hear the term chosen ones. It almost sounds like a myth, something out of a fairy tale or an ancient legend. But what if I told you that being one of the chosen ones isn't about being born special, but rather being made? These individuals are forged through a series of challenges that most people never even recognize. These are not physical tests. You can't see them with your eyes or measure them with any tool. They are spiritual, mental, and emotional tests, each one more challenging than the last. The chosen ones face hardships that go beyond what most can even imagine, and it's in these trials that they are transformed. Life itself is a test, but not everyone is tested in the same way. The deeper you go on your spiritual journey, the more intense the challenges become. The chosen ones are those who, despite the hardships they face, step into these trials willingly, not because they want to, but because they have no other choice. There's a deep, unshakable calling that tugs at them, urging them to walk through the fire. It's a force that doesn't let them turn back, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it gets. This divine pull, this calling, is not glamorous. It's not easy, and it's certainly not optional. These tests will push you to the edge of your own limits. You may even question everything about yourself, from your identity to your very faith. At times, you might feel as if you can't bear it any longer, that the weight is too much to carry. But if you endure, if you keep moving forward, something miraculous happens. You are forever changed. The refining process of these tests will leave you stronger, purer, and more attuned to your true purpose than ever before. This idea of being chosen isn't about privilege. It's about preparation. It's about going through trials that few can understand, but ones that shape you into the person God destined you to be. Take, for example, the story of Job in the Bible. He faced unbearable losses and suffering, yet he never wavered in his faith. In Job 23:10, he says, "But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold." Job was tested, refined, and through his trials, he was transformed into a shining example of faith. Have you ever felt this tug in your heart, like God is calling you to face something difficult, something you don't feel prepared for? The truth is, if you are chosen, it's because you are capable of enduring what others cannot. These tests are meant to strengthen you, to build resilience, and to help you realize the divine potential that lies within you. But the question remains, are you ready to face them? When life throws its hardest trials at you, it might seem impossible to endure. But remember, these tests are not there to break you. They are there to build you, to refine you into something greater than you could ever imagine. Just like a piece of gold is purified by fire, you too will be purified by your struggles. And at the end of this journey, you will be transformed into someone capable of walking in your full divine purpose. As you face your own spiritual tests, always remember, you are not alone. You are part of something much greater than yourself, and these trials are part of your divine purpose. Can you endure? Can you emerge stronger? The answer lies in your willingness to step forward, trusting that each test is a stepping stone towards your transformation. God has called you for a reason, and these challenges are just part of His plan to reveal your true strength. The first test that every chosen one must face is one that cuts straight to the core of your being. It is the test of confronting the truth of who you truly are. For most of our lives, we spend so much time crafting an image of ourselves. We build up a mask, a persona that we present to the world. This mask is often defined by the roles we play, our jobs, relationships, achievements, and possessions. But when the first spiritual test arrives, it strips all of that away. It forces you to look in the mirror and face yourself without the external labels and titles that have always defined you. This is where the test becomes deeply uncomfortable. It's a moment that can feel like staring into the abyss, as though everything you thought you knew about yourself suddenly collapses. You've spent so much of your life identifying with things outside of you, things that are temporary and fleeting. But when they are gone, who are you? What's left when the mask is gone and you are left to stand in front of the mirror, fully exposed? For many, this is a terrifying moment. It's easier to define ourselves by what we have or what we do, our job titles, our accomplishments, or even the people we surround ourselves with. But the true test begins when all of those things are stripped away. When you no longer have the external markers of your identity, you are left to confront the person you truly are at the core. And in this moment, you may feel lost or uncertain. Who am I without these labels? What defines me now? The Bible speaks to this exact moment in several places. Consider the story of Moses, who had to confront his own identity in a profound way. As a prince of Egypt, Moses was defined by his position, wealth, and status. But when he fled into the wilderness, God called him to something greater, something that would challenge the very essence of who he believed himself to be. In Exodus 3:11, when God calls Moses from the burning bush, Moses asks, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" He was faced with the painful question of his true identity, one that had nothing to do with his past life, his status, or his achievements. Just like Moses, you too must face this question. Who are you when everything else is taken away? Are you ready to stand in the truth of who you really are, beyond the mask you wear? Are you ready to see yourself as God sees you, not as the world sees you? This test is one that requires radical honesty with yourself. It's about recognizing that your worth is not found in your job, your possessions, or your relationships. Your true value comes from God, from the purpose He has placed in your heart, and from the unique calling He has set before you. This is where the transformation begins. When you can stand in your truth, when you can acknowledge and embrace who you are in the eyes of God, you begin to step into your true purpose. In this moment of truth, you might feel vulnerable, but remember, it is through vulnerability that true strength is born. The chosen ones are not those who have it all figured out, but those who are willing to strip away the illusions and stand before God, raw and unprotected, ready to embrace their divine purpose. Can you confront who you truly are without the mask? Are you willing to let go of the false identities and step into the truth of your divine calling? These are the questions that begin the spiritual journey, and they are not easy to answer. But if you can face this first test, you will be ready for the trials that lie ahead. Because once you know who you truly are, nothing in the world can shake you. Many people, when faced with the first test, simply can't handle it. It's too difficult, too confronting. The fear of facing the truth about who they are, beyond the illusions and external labels, overwhelms them. They retreat back into the comfort of the identity they've spent years building, the mask they wear to fit in, to feel safe. They turn away from the mirror, unable to confront the rawness of their true selves. But the chosen ones, the ones destined for something greater, don't retreat. They don't run away from the abyss that stares back at them. Instead, they stand there, unflinching, unyielding, and face it head-on. In that moment of vulnerability, when the mask is gone and the truth is revealed, they ask themselves the hardest question: who am I really? This question is not one that can be answered lightly. It's not a passing thought that comes and goes with the breeze. This is a deep, burning question, one that lodges itself in the very core of your being, refusing to let go until you confront it fully. Have you ever asked yourself that question, not just in passing, but in a way that shakes you to your foundation? When was the last time you stood before God and asked, "Who am I in your eyes? What is my true purpose? What is the identity you've given me?" For many, the idea of asking this question is intimidating. The answer can be unsettling because it forces you to acknowledge truths about yourself that you may not be ready to face. But it is in these moments of discomfort that the transformation begins. The chosen ones are not those who have all the answers, but those who are brave enough to ask the hard questions, those who are willing to peel back the layers and uncover the truth, even if it's painful. The Bible offers us many examples of those who faced this exact test. Take, for instance, the story of Jacob. In Genesis 32:27, when he wrestled with the angel asked him, "What is your name?" Jacob, in that moment, had to face the truth of who he was. Not just his name, but his past, his identity, and his flaws. It was only after this confrontation that he received a new name, Israel, a name that symbolized his transformation. Much like Jacob, you too must confront your true self before you can move forward in your divine purpose. You must be willing to look into the mirror of your soul and ask the question, who am I really? This is the question that separates those who are ready for spiritual growth from those who are not. The chosen ones are the ones who can look into the abyss of their own identity, face their fears and imperfections, and say, I am ready for the truth. I am ready to embrace who God has called me to be. Can you stand before the mirror of your soul and ask this question? Can you face the truth about yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable or unsettling? It's in that moment of honest self-reflection that your spiritual journey truly begins. And once you ask the question, once you truly seek the answer, there's no turning back. You'll be forever changed, and you'll step into the greatness that God has always known you were destined for. The second test that the chosen ones must face is the test of isolation. In a world that is constantly buzzing with noise, social media notifications, emails, phone calls, the constant chatter of family and friends, it's easy to forget what it feels like to be alone, truly alone. But to pass this test, you must be willing to embrace isolation, not just in a physical sense, but mentally and emotionally as well. This is the kind of solitude that forces you to sit with yourself, to confront your innermost thoughts, fears, and desires. In today's world, where distractions are at our fingertips and the world is always vying for our attention, isolation can be incredibly uncomfortable, but this is exactly why it is a necessary test. In the silence, when everything around you quiets down, you will be forced to confront your true self. There is nowhere to hide from your own thoughts. The distractions you once relied on to avoid facing your own emotions and truths are no longer there. And it's in this quiet that the real transformation begins. In that silence, you will start to hear something else, something that has always been there but has been drowned out by the noise of the world. It's your inner voice. It's the voice of your true self, the voice that's been waiting for you to listen, the still, small voice of God within you. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, "Can I hear it?" Or are you too afraid to listen to what it might say? Most people are terrified of silence because they fear what they might hear. It's easy to keep filling the void with noise, whether it's through social media, work, or constantly being around people, because silence forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. But for the chosen ones, silence is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. In the silence, you begin to hear the truth that is often drowned out by the distractions of everyday life. You hear the voice of God calling you to your true purpose. Consider the story of Jesus in the wilderness. In Matthew 4:1-2 it says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry." It was in this isolation in the wilderness that Jesus faced his own inner battles and was able to hear God's voice clearly. In that silence, he was not alone. He was being spiritually prepared for what lay ahead. The silence was necessary for his divine calling. Just as Jesus did, you too must face your own wilderness. The test of isolation is not meant to break you, but to help you hear the call of your true self. Can you sit with yourself in the silence without distractions? Can you confront your own inner thoughts, fears, and desires? The chosen ones are those who are willing to face the silence, who are brave enough to sit in it and listen for the voice of God calling them to something greater. In that stillness, you will find the truth. You will find clarity about who you are and what you're meant to do. You will hear your divine calling more clearly than ever before. Can you embrace this silence? Can you allow yourself to be fully present with your thoughts and your soul? Only then will you truly be able to hear the voice that is always with you, the voice of your true self, your divine purpose, and the guiding hand of God. The hardest tests are not always those that challenge your body. They are the ones that challenge your soul. These tests are the ones that strip away the layers of who you think you are, revealing your deepest fears and desires. The third test, the test of letting go, is perhaps the most difficult for many people because it challenges us at the very core of our being. We hold on to so much in life: grudges, expectations, disappointments. We carry the weight of past hurts and failures, and it drags us down, often without us even realizing it. But in order to pass this test, you must be willing to release everything. You must be ready to let go of the emotional baggage, the attachments to outcomes, to people, to things that you've clung to for so long. Letting go is not about not caring. It's about surrendering control. It's about trusting that whatever is meant for you will come to you in due time, and whatever is not meant for you will naturally fall away. To truly let go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of profound strength, one that requires immense faith. This test is especially difficult because letting go doesn't happen all at once. It's a process, a constant act of releasing that takes time and effort. It's not something you can just decide to do and then instantly forget. Every day, you have to remind yourself to trust and to release, to surrender your need for control. And just when you think you've mastered the art of letting go, life will throw something at you, something that tests your resolve and makes you want to cling to what you have. In those moments when you feel yourself holding on, you must ask yourself the hardest question: am I willing to let go even of this? This is where the test becomes real. It's not just about releasing things in your life that no longer serve you. It's about releasing your expectations of how things should go, of how you want things to turn out. The truth is, we often hold on to people, situations and outcomes because we are afraid of the unknown. We want control over our circumstances, but true freedom comes when we surrender that control and trust that God's plan is better than our own. The Bible offers powerful examples of letting go. One of the most profound examples is in the story of Abraham. God called him to leave everything he knew, the land, his family, his security, and go to a place he didn't even know. In Genesis 12:1, God says to Abraham, "Go from your country, your people and your father's household to the land I will show you." Abraham had to let go of everything, his past, his comfort, and his plans. It was an act of immense faith and trust in God's promise. He didn't know the outcome, but he obeyed, and in doing so, he walked into the blessing God had prepared for him. Similarly, in our own lives, we are often called to let go of things, relationships, and even dreams that we hold dear. But in this surrender, we make space for God to work in ways that we could never have imagined. The moment you let go of your attachment to outcomes, you make room for the divine plan to unfold in your life. The real question is, how much are you willing to release in order to be free? Letting go is a process that requires constant trust and surrender, especially in the face of uncertainty. Each time you release something, you make room for something greater. You are free to walk into the future God has prepared for you without being weighed down by the past. Can you let go of the things that are holding you back, even when it feels impossible? Are you willing to release your attachment to outcomes and trust that God knows what's best for you? The chosen ones are those who can answer yes to these questions. They are the ones who understand that letting go is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to their faith and strength. It's in the release that we find freedom, peace, and the divine purpose that has always been waiting for us. If you've made it through the first 3 tests, you've already begun to transform. But the journey doesn't get any easier from here. In fact, it only becomes more intense. The 4th test is one that has broken even the strongest souls. It's known as the dark night of the soul. This is the test where everything you thought you knew, everything you believed in, is turned upside down. It's as if the universe itself is asking you, how much darkness can you endure before you lose your light? During the dark night of the soul, you are plunged into a period of intense inner turmoil. It feels like the world itself is falling apart around you. Relationships disintegrate. Career paths seem to vanish into thin air. Your sense of purpose crumbles, and all you're left with are questions. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? And most hauntingly, will I ever make it out of this darkness? It's easy, in this moment, to think that this is some sort of punishment, that you are being tested beyond what you can bear. But here's the secret. The dark night of the soul is not a punishment. It's a purification. It's a necessary phase in your spiritual evolution, a part of the process that shapes you into who you are meant to become. The darkness is not there to destroy you. It's there to strip away everything that is not truly you. It is in these darkest moments that your deepest light is often revealed, but only if you can endure. Many people, when faced with this test, succumb to despair. They lose themselves in the darkness, give up on their faith, and lose hope. But the chosen ones, those called to a greater purpose, do not give in. They understand that the darkness is only temporary, that it is but a phase in their journey. They know that even when the path ahead seems unclear, even when they cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel, they must keep moving forward. Think about how many times in the Bible individuals faced moments of profound darkness. Moses wandered in the wilderness for 40 years before leading his people to freedom. Even Jesus, during his time in the Garden of Gethsemane, faced a moment of deep agony and uncertainty, praying, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." Matthew 26:38. Yet Jesus did not give in to despair. He trusted in God's plan, even when he could not see the end. Similarly, in your own dark night of the soul, you may feel lost, isolated, and overwhelmed. You might question the path you're on, but remember, this trial is not meant to break you. It is here to refine you. Every trial, every heartbreak, every moment of suffering is a part of God's greater plan to shape you into the person you were always meant to be. The chosen ones are those who endure this darkness with faith, knowing that the light will come, even if they cannot see it yet. The key is trust. The chosen ones trust that God has not abandoned them, even when everything feels like it's falling apart. They know that God works in mysterious ways, and His timing is perfect. In those moments when you feel like you can't take another step, remind yourself, the darkness is temporary. You will emerge stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your divine purpose on the other side. Are you willing to face this test without losing hope? Will you trust that the darkness will eventually give way to light? The chosen ones do not give up in the face of their darkest trials. They hold on to the belief that God's plan is greater than any struggle they face. This is the test that refines your faith, strengthens your resolve, and brings you closer to the purpose you were always meant to fulfill. Keep moving forward, even when you can't see the way ahead, and trust that God is leading you through this dark night to the light that awaits. But let me ask you this: how do you react when everything falls apart? When life begins to crumble and slip through your fingers, do you panic? Do you try to cling desperately to the pieces of your life, trying to hold them together with everything you've got? Or do you let them fall, trusting that what is meant to stay will stay, and what is meant to go will go? This brings us to the fifth test, the test of faith. Now, I'm not talking about faith in the traditional religious sense, but faith in yourself, faith in the universe, and faith in life itself. When you are in the dark night of the soul, you will be faced with moments that will test your belief in what is happening around you. You must have faith that the darkness is not permanent, that there is a greater plan unfolding, even if you can't see it. This is perhaps one of the hardest tests because it requires you to believe in something you cannot see, something you cannot prove. It asks you to trust in the unseen, to trust that everything is happening for a reason, even if that reason is not clear to you just yet. Faith is not blind. It's not about ignoring the pain or pretending that everything is okay when you feel broken inside. Faith is about acknowledging the pain, feeling it fully, and yet still choosing to believe that there's a purpose behind it. Faith is trusting that the universe is not against you, but that it is working for you, even when it feels like everything is falling apart at the seams. Here's the thing: when you find yourself in the dark night of the soul, your faith will be tested over and over again. You will face moments when the world feels too heavy to carry. You will be tempted to give up, to lose hope, to believe that the darkness you are walking through is all that exists. But it's in these very moments that the chosen ones rise above. They endure. They hold on to their faith even when it feels like there is nothing left to hold on to. They keep moving forward even when every step feels like it's taking them deeper into the unknown. Think about how Jesus faced this test in the Garden of Gethsemane. In Matthew 26:39, he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Jesus was in deep anguish, facing an unimaginable trial, but his faith in God's plan was unshaken. He trusted that even in the most painful of circumstances, God's purpose would prevail. And through that faith, he moved forward, completing his mission despite the darkness. Just like Jesus, you too must hold on to faith in the unseen. In those moments when the path ahead is dark and uncertain, when it feels like the world is falling apart, you must trust that there is a reason for everything. You must believe that what you are going through is part of a larger divine plan, one that you may not fully understand right now, but one that will reveal itself in time. So let me ask you, how strong is your faith? Can you hold on to it when everything around you is falling apart? Can you trust in the unseen, in the unknown, even when the path ahead seems unclear? The chosen ones are not those who never falter, but those who choose to trust. Even when everything seems to be unraveling, they believe that in the midst of the darkness, the light is still there, waiting for them. Faith is the strength that will carry you through your darkest moments. It is the anchor that holds you steady when everything else is in chaos. When you have faith, you're not just walking through the storm. You are walking with the knowledge that it is leading you to something greater. Keep moving forward, even when you can't see the way. Trust that God, the universe, and the divine plan are guiding you through this. The chosen ones endure because they trust that the light will return, even if it feels distant now. And when it does, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your true purpose. At some point when you've been in the dark long enough, when you've wrestled with the questions, the doubts, the fears, you come to a precipice. This is where the sixth test begins, the test of surrender. If you've made it this far, you've already proven that you are strong, resilient, and capable of enduring tremendous pain and uncertainty. But this test isn't about strength. It's about giving up control. It's about surrendering to the flow of life, to the forces that are far greater than your individual will. And this, in many ways, is the hardest test of all. We humans love to be in control. We plan, we organize, we strategize, and we try to shape our lives, our futures, and our relationships according to our desires and expectations. But life doesn't always follow our plans. In fact, more often than not, it takes us in directions we never anticipated. Sometimes painful, sometimes joyful, often mysterious. The chosen ones are those who understand that control is an illusion. They understand that there is a greater intelligence at work, a force that knows far more than the limited human mind ever could. And they are willing to surrender to that force, to let go of their need to control the outcome. But here's the crucial part. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you stop caring or striving. It means you stop resisting. It means you stop fighting against the current of life and instead allow yourself to be carried by it. Imagine you're swimming in a river. If you try to swim upstream against the current, you'll exhaust yourself and get nowhere. But if you surrender to the flow of the river, you'll be carried effortlessly to where you need to go. This is what surrendering to life is like. In this test, you will be asked to let go of more than just your plans. You may be asked to let go of your identity, your ego, the very idea of who you think you are. You may be asked to surrender your desires, your attachments, even your dreams. This kind of surrender is not something that happens overnight. It's a process, one that requires trust. Trust in life, trust in yourself, trust in the greater plan that is unfolding, even if you cannot see it. The Bible offers us a powerful example of surrender in the life of Abraham. In Genesis 22, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his beloved son, Isaac. It was a request that challenged everything Abraham knew about his life, his purpose, and his relationship with God. Yet, Abraham surrendered to God's will without question. In verse 12, God says, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham's surrender, his willingness to let go of what he loved most, demonstrated an immense trust in God's greater plan. This moment of surrender wasn't about loss, it was about faith and trust in the divine purpose that transcends human understanding. Similarly, you may be called to let go of things you've held onto tightly. It may be your sense of control, your need to know the outcome, or even your attachment to certain desires. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up your dreams or giving up on life. It means trusting that life's plan for you is greater than any plan you could have ever crafted yourself. Consider this. How much of your life do you spend trying to control things? How often do you resist the way things are, wishing they were different? We often fight against life, against situations, against people, and against ourselves. What would happen if you stopped resisting? What would happen if you let go of your need to control every outcome and simply trusted that whatever happens is exactly what is meant to happen? The chosen ones are those who understand that resisting only creates more suffering. They understand that surrender is not about weakness, it is about strength. It takes immense courage to trust, to let go, and to allow life to unfold in its own time. Surrendering is a powerful act of faith, one that releases the burden of control and opens you up to divine guidance. Can you let go of your need to control everything? Are you willing to trust in the flow of life, even when it's unclear? Surrender is the key to finding peace and freedom, and it's in this moment of letting go that you make room for something greater to unfold. The chosen ones embrace surrender because they know that it is through surrender that they align with their true purpose, and they find peace in the unfolding journey, trusting that life is guiding them to exactly where they need to be. The test of surrender is not about weakness, it's about strength, the strength to let go. It's about courage, the courage to trust the unknown. Most people will never pass this test because surrender feels like losing. It feels like giving up. But the chosen ones that know that surrender is not the end, it's the beginning. It's the moment when you finally step into the flow of life, when you stop struggling and start allowing life to guide you. Surrendering to life doesn't mean you give up your power. On the contrary, it means you align yourself with a power far greater than your own. It means you tap into the infinite intelligence of the universe, the intelligence that knows exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. But to access that power, you must first let go of the illusion that you are in control. In the Bible, we see this beautifully illustrated in the life of Jesus, particularly in his prayer before his arrest. In Luke 22:42, he prays, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." Jesus, in this moment of immense uncertainty and fear, surrenders his will to God. He didn't give up his power. He aligned with God's higher purpose, knowing that surrender to divine will was the key to fulfilling his destiny. Jesus understood that true power comes from releasing control and trusting in God's plan, even when it didn't make sense to his human understanding. The chosen ones understand this truth. They understand that the path to true power is not through control, but through surrender. Surrender is not about being passive or weak. It is about aligning with a force greater than yourself. A force that knows the way even when you don't. It's about trusting that life, even in its most challenging moments, is unfolding perfectly, and that you are exactly where you are meant to be. Let me ask you this. Can you surrender? Can you let go of your need to control every aspect of your life? Can you trust that life knows what it's doing, even when you don't? This is the test that separates the chosen ones from the rest. It's the test that requires you to relinquish your grip on the steering wheel and allow life to take you where you need to go. Think about the metaphor of driving. You're in the car, holding tightly to the wheel, navigating the twists and turns of life. But at some point, you realize that you don't have all the answers. The road is winding, and you can't predict every bump or detour ahead. Surrendering is like letting go of the wheel and trusting that the journey, even though uncertain, will lead you to exactly where you're meant to be. It's not about losing control. It's about trusting that there is a higher power guiding you, a power that sees the bigger picture when you can only see the road ahead. So, the real question is, can you trust that life knows what it's doing? Can you let go of the need to control everything and trust that everything is unfolding as it should? Surrender is not a passive act. It's an active choice to trust the unknown, to step into the flow of life with faith, and to allow life to guide you to your highest purpose. This is the test that the chosen ones pass, and it's the test that leads them to their greatest strength and freedom. When you surrender, you don't lose yourself. You find your true self. You tap into a power greater than your own, and you align with the universe's infinite intelligence, which is always working in your favor. The moment you let go is the moment you step into a higher, more profound level of living. You stop fighting the current of life and start allowing it to carry you to exactly where you are meant to be. Are you ready to surrender? Are you ready to trust that life, with all its unknowns, will take you where you need to go? The chosen ones embrace this test, and in doing so, they discover a strength and freedom beyond anything they ever imagined. The choice is yours. Will you let go and let life guide you? And here's the paradox. When you surrender, when you let go of the need to control, you actually gain more control. But it's not the kind of control you think. It's not the control of manipulating outcomes or forcing things to go your way. It's the control that comes from being in harmony with life, from being in alignment with the flow of the universe. When you are in that state of surrender, everything unfolds effortlessly, and you find yourself exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there. This may sound counterintuitive. How can letting go give you more control? It's because true control is not about holding on tightly to every aspect of your life. It's about trusting that the universe is guiding you toward the best possible outcome. The chosen ones understand this. They know that when they surrender, they are not giving up control. They are aligning with a power far greater than their own. And in that alignment, things fall into place in ways they could never have predicted. The struggle to control everything dissipates, and they move forward with ease, knowing that they are being guided in the right direction. But that kind of surrender requires trust. It requires faith. It requires you to step into the unknown, into the mystery of life, without needing to know all the answers. Can you do that? Can you step into the unknown and trust that you will be guided, that you will be supported, even when you cannot see the path ahead? This is the true test of surrender, the test that challenges you to let go of your need to know the outcome. In those moments of uncertainty, it's easy to want to grasp for control, to demand answers, to try to force things to unfold according to your will. But the chosen ones have learned that this is not the path to peace. The path to peace, to divine guidance, and to true fulfillment is through surrender, through trusting that even in the absence of answers, the universe is unfolding perfectly. This is the test of surrender, and it is one of the final tests that the chosen ones must endure. Only those who can truly let go, who can truly surrender to the flow of life, will pass this test. And those who do will find that life has far more in store for them than they ever could have imagined. Consider the story of Abraham, who, after being promised a son in his old age, was asked by God to sacrifice that son, Isaac. In Genesis 22:2, God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Abraham's surrender in this moment wasn't about blind obedience. It was about trusting that God's plan was far greater than anything he could understand. He surrendered his control over the situation, and in doing so, he stepped into God's perfect plan for his life. In the same way, you too must surrender the need to control the path your life takes. The chosen ones trust that even when the path is unclear, they are being led exactly where they need to go. In their surrender, they discover that life is far more abundant than they could have ever dreamed, filled with experiences, opportunities, and blessings they couldn't have anticipated. Are you ready to step into the unknown? Can you let go of the need to control and trust that life is guiding you to exactly where you need to be? This is the test of surrender, the test that separates the chosen ones from the rest. Those who surrender to life's flow will find that the journey is filled with effortless guidance, peace, and transformation. Through surrender, you will realize that everything you've been through has led you to this moment of divine alignment. Will you let go and trust? The chosen ones are those who embrace the mystery of life, knowing that surrender is not defeat, but the key to unlocking the life they were always meant to live. The answer is yours to find. If you've come this far, if you've passed the test of surrender, you are already among the few who have endured the hardest trials. But there is one final test that remains, and it is the most profound of all. It is the test of awakening, the moment when you finally understand your purpose, when you see the ultimate truth that has been guiding you all along. The final test is not one of endurance, but one of realization. It's not about what you can do, but about what you can see. This is the moment when the veil is lifted, when the fog of confusion clears, and you are able to see the world and yourself as they truly are. It's when you awaken to your divine purpose, when you understand why you've been through all the trials, why you've endured the pain, the darkness, and the uncertainty. Everything suddenly makes sense, and you realize that every step of your journey has been leading you to this awakening. The chosen ones are not chosen because they are inherently special or more capable than others. They are chosen because they have made the choice to awaken. They have chosen to see the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it challenges everything they have believed about themselves and the world around them. And the truth they awaken to is this: you are not separate from life. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are life itself, expressing itself through a unique form, through a unique journey. This final test asks you to realize that all the struggles, all the tests, have been designed to bring you closer to this truth. They were not random, nor were they punishments. They were carefully crafted experiences meant to strip away the illusions, the false identities, and the egoic desires that we cling to in the hope of finding meaning outside of ourselves. And in doing so, these trials have created space for you to see the deeper reality beneath it all. You are here for a reason. You are here not by accident, but because life itself, in its infinite wisdom, wanted to experience itself through you. Your purpose is not something that you need to search for in the future. It is something you are already living every moment of every day. It is found in the simple act of being, in the expression of who you are at your core. The moment you awaken to this truth, everything changes. You no longer feel the desperate need to control your circumstances because you realize that life is already unfolding perfectly, exactly as it is meant to. You understand that what you've been through, the pain and the triumphs alike, are all part of a greater plan, one that you may not fully understand, but one that is unfolding with divine precision. Consider the story of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. In Matthew 26:39, as he faced the agony of the cross, he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Jesus, in his darkest hour, awakened to the truth that his suffering was not meaningless. It was part of a divine plan greater than himself. His purpose was not just to endure, but to fulfill the will of God, even when the cost was unimaginable. Similarly, in the story of Joseph in Genesis 50:20, Joseph, after being betrayed by his brothers, imprisoned, and suffering many trials, was able to see the bigger picture. He said to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's awakening came when he realized that everything he went through, the pain, the rejection, the suffering, was part of God's greater plan to save many people. His trials had led him to his true purpose, and in that moment of awakening, he saw God's hand at work all along. This final test asks you to awaken to this truth. You are not separate from the universe, but an integral part of it. And when you awaken to this truth, everything changes. You no longer feel the need to control, because you understand that life is already unfolding perfectly. You no longer feel the need to search for your purpose, because you realize that your purpose is simply to be, to experience, to express life in whatever way feels most true to you. Like Paul in Philippians 1:21, who said, "For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." The chosen ones had come to realize that their life's purpose is not something to chase after, but something to live out with full surrender and trust in God's plan. The moment you awaken, you understand that your life is part of something greater, an expression of divine purpose unfolding every day. Can you awaken to this truth? Can you see that you're not separate from the universe, but an integral part of it, divinely placed and divinely guided? When you do, everything changes. Your relationship with the world, with others, and with yourself will never be the same again. You will walk in the light of your purpose, trusting that life is guiding you exactly where you need to be. This is the final test, and it's not about what you do, but about what you see. When you finally see the truth, you will realize that you have always been exactly where you needed to be. But this awakening is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning of a new one. Once you have passed this final test, you are no longer bound by the limitations of the mind, the ego, or the fears that once held you captive. You are free, free to live your life with purpose, with meaning, and with joy. Free to create, to love, to explore the world without the weight of fear or doubt. This is the gift of the final test. This is the reward for enduring the hardest trials that only the chosen ones face. The moment of awakening changes everything. The shackles of the past, your doubts, insecurities, and the false identities that you once clung to, fall away. No longer do you live in fear of what might happen, because you understand that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You are no longer a prisoner of the external world or the opinions of others. You are free to live authentically, to express your true self without the masks or pretensions you once relied upon. Think of the Apostle Paul, who underwent his own profound awakening. After his dramatic conversion on the road to Damascus, Paul's life was no longer bound by his past. He went from being a persecutor of Christians to becoming one of the greatest advocates for Christ. In Galatians 2:20, Paul writes, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me." This was his moment of true awakening, when he realized that his purpose was no longer about his own desires or agenda, but about living out the divine purpose given to him. He was free from the shackles of his former identity, free to follow God's call without hesitation. And now, after enduring the tests of surrender, faith, darkness, and realization, you too are invited to awaken to your true self, your true purpose. This freedom is not just an abstract concept, it is a living, breathing reality that you can experience every single day. You will be able to create with purpose, love, with authenticity, and move through the world with joy and grace, knowing that you are in alignment with your divine calling. But here's the crucial question: are you ready to awaken? Are you ready to let go of the fears and limitations that have held you back? Are you ready to see the truth of who you are and why you are here, not just as a fleeting thought, but as the foundation of your entire existence? The chosen ones are those who say yes to this truth. They are the ones who are willing to face the discomfort of awakening, even when it challenges everything they've known. And in that choice, they find the freedom to live a life full of purpose, peace, and joy. So, I ask you once more, are you ready to awaken? Are you ready to embrace the full truth of your being and live out the divine purpose that has always been there, waiting for you to realize it? This is the final test, and in this awakening, you will find the freedom to live the life you were always meant to live. The journey is not easy. The tests are not easy. But if you can endure them, if you can pass through the darkness, the uncertainty, and the pain, you will find that what awaits you on the other side is beyond anything you could have ever imagined. This is the path of the chosen ones. It is not a path for the faint of heart. It is a path for those who are willing to face the hardest tests, to endure the deepest challenges, and to come out the other side awakened, transformed, and free. And now the question is, are you one of the chosen ones? Are you ready to walk this path, no matter how difficult, knowing that it leads to something greater than you could have ever hoped for? As you embark on this journey, I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you. Whether you've donated through Super Thanks or simply watched and engaged with this message, your presence here is a blessing. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to consider supporting this channel through Super Thanks. Every contribution helps us continue to spread powerful, transformative content. But even if you haven't donated, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and being a part of this journey. If you found value in this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit from this message. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Let us know how these words have touched you and what your thoughts are on this path of awakening. May you be blessed with the strength to endure every test that comes your way. May you walk in the light of your true purpose, and may you always remember that you are never alone. You are divinely guided, and your journey is unfolding exactly as it should. Keep moving forward and trust that what lies ahead is beyond your wildest dreams. Blessings to you all. Thank you for being here, and may your path be filled with light, love, and endless transformation.